Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Streggy, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Did you miss me? I guess not.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Streggy, and today I have another review for you, this time of a film from 2006 called Battlespace. And it was produced by Morpheus Films, along with Empire Motion Pictures director Neil Johnson, who I have previously reviewed his 2B1 and I believe the Demons Are Us. I believe that's the name of his first one. And I decided to check out his first space epic, which almost never was. And I'm glad that I went back and watched the documentary of the making of on the special features of this film. Here is the copy that I have. And it was put out by LMG Digital Media. So I believe that this was put out independently. But originally it had evidently started out with a $3 million budget from some Canadian producers who ended up like downsizing the capital to $1.25 million or whatnot, and then eventually next to nil. And they evidently wanted like too much. And had not given started to create stories about the money wasn't available, that the stock market had changed, this and that, and ultimately Neil was like, well, fuck you guys. I've already done this on my own. I'm going to continue to do this film with or without you. And he went from a crew of 30 down to a crew of about 4, and the cast probably just as much. So his makeup person ended up being his main lead lady, and he just kind of pushed on. This film, it boasts of over 400 visual FX shots, and it was shot on location in Arizona, Los Angeles, New York, Copenhagen, Australia, Berlin, and Singapore. So I like the fact that he in this film went to Lake Powell, which was in upstate Arizona, which is where they filmed Planet of the Apes, the first one and the second one, very minimally. It was the crash scene with Charlton Heston. So it was very interesting to learn all the different downfalls that he literally had to go through. I mean, they lost their money. He had to sell his retirement home to in Australia just to fund this film. And not only that, but the SFX company that he was using at the time, their company was foreclosing. So he had to scramble to get his the surviving elements of his films from the SFX studio before they took and seized the property. So he ultimately had to go through several legal battles just to try to get some money from some of these people, and he ended up getting roughly about 25,000, like $50,000 back, but ultimately he was probably keeping about 25,000 with lawyers' fees and all that jazz. And it was interesting to learn that he actually used the inside of a museum piece of a battleship. He used the actual inside side of military tanks for the spaceships that the lead actress was in, and so on and so forth. So let's get into the review part of my review. So the film is, I thought it was set in the future, but literally you could take this and put it like millions of years into the past, because it's connected with the Big Bang Theory. But we don't learn that until later on. The film actually introduces us to the daughter of a commander by the name of Iva T. Strike. And she is the one that's narrating the whole story as a memory of her mother's journey, and evidently at one point in time in this universe there was a purge of the Homo sapien purge, where evidently there were advanced technical advanced humans who evidently had bionics placed within them, which made them faster, stronger, run faster, and ultimately made them entirely new species. And her mother, who was played by Eve Connolly, who is the name of the actress, who went through quite a lot with journeying from Australia to Arizona to the United States. It was an interesting thing to see a lot of what she went through, and evidently there were some hot days and whatnot. And I actually thought that the film, with all the special effects that Neil put into the film afterwards of the surviving elements and footage, I thought the effects and the special effects looked actually relatively beautiful. I've seen worse. I mean, I've I really got into Star Trek: New Frontier, which was a seasonal thing of Star Trek fan based seasons of fans that would actually put on episodes of their own of stories of Star Trek within the Star Trek universe, and oftentimes, people from the actual Star Trek would end up in some of these series as like, and it was kind of a web thing. So knowing that and the fact that Babylon 5 used a lot of the technology that Neil used in this film, and there's actually another film that I recently watched that kind of reminds me of the blue or green screening that they used here. I believe Jurassic Galaxy comes to mind with the way the planet. But here we actually have the journey of this mother who's in a commanding unit of some sort, and she gets crash landed on this planet, where she finds out that the constructs, which is what the enemy is called, the constructs have created this weapon that can destroy planets, and she ultimately ends up having to travel across this desert on her own on this planet, battling the natural elements that happen on the planet, along with some robotic creatures, braving some waters with some underwater creatures, and till she gets to the place on the planet where these constructs are creating this technology, and she has to go and shut it down. But also, it's a story of Iva, because evidently she is in stasis when a couple of commanders from some other time period end up waking her up, and she realizes when she finally gets rid of the two that woke her up. She realizes that the space around her is actually crumbling. It's at the end of time, and the sentient being called the Watcher, which is voiced by Iva Franks, and she actually has a computer that she talks to called Tarundo, who is voiced by Paul Darrow, and Iva Franks' singer is the voice of this sentient being called the Watchers, and she was on Bordello of Blood as a werewolf. She was in Space Above and Beyond, and so on and so forth. And she ended up being in a later film of Neil's, but I'm sure I will get to that eventually. She ended up having a voice role in Battlespace, and for knowing what went wrong for this film, I have a much higher respect for it. If I had not read the back a little bit more about some of the mythos that had to do with the the fact that she had to leave her child to go on this mission to go up against these construct, this race of constructs, and all that jazz. I might not have known too much about what this film was about because I'm not used to such narration. Maybe it's a little Dune-like Frank Herbert Dune kind, because there was a lot of narration, and I could see how some other people might get turned off by someone talking at them all the time. Instead of relying on narration, he should have relied on screen, things that they would be able to create on screen. But I understand the problems that he had, which prevented him from creating that kind of an atmosphere. So the narration almost makes up for all of the lack thereof action that he could have had. So I actually think for what this film is, and using green screens to make and all of the space itself and the backgrounds and the gun weapons and the ships, all of those are computerized, and I think they actually look relatively decent for the time for the times. I mean, this was something that Neil had to create on his own. And yeah, he's done it somewhat before, but not on such larger and grander of a scale. And to be able to create universes and planets and stars and all of that jazz by computer is actually kind of, and make it actually look decent. And some of the shots, like some of the zoom shots that he had of going towards the planet with some of the meteor showers that were happening, to the moment where it pulled away from the actress and showed you what the surrounding landscape looked like, and the outside of the world from space looked like. That was intense. So seeing it from that perspective makes me have a lot more respect for this film, for its time, and for all the problems that he had. More power to you. I mean, I'm glad that I watched the behind the scenes of this, and maybe it makes me a little biased, but I actually felt for Neil for all the things that he was doing. I mean, you literally saw him on the phone with the producers, and he's literally back and forth with these people. And you can tell that he cares about the project so much that that he had to fight a lot to do the things that he needed to do with the film. And it took some time for him to put the film together, but he succeeded. And I think the film that it is actually relatively entertaining. At least to me. I mean, at first, okay, I fell asleep more towards the end, maybe because of the fact that I didn't know all the things that I know. But after watching it again with the information that I knew, I learned to respect it. more than some people probably would. I mean, yes, it does look low budget, and yeah, Star Trek looks a hell of a lot better. But you have to understand all the pitfalls and and the shit that he had to go through just to get it to this point. It wasn't. It isn't the film that he set out to make, but it is a film that I think he put a lot of heart in, and you can tell that with the design and the way the story and the mythos. And the whole fact that this could be like a Circle of Life thing, his Lion King, to the major audiences, and you have to give the man respect. In any case, hopefully you enjoyed my description of this film. Like and subscribe to my page if you have not. Definitely check the film out and check the behind the scenes out. It is just as entertaining as the movie because of how much wrong the producers did for this man. I mean, being a producer myself, when I commit to something, I do it, even if my word is my bond. I don't just renege, and I don't just start adding shit. I mean, apparently they wanted a main actor to do this and this, started to tell him what to do, and that's not how you do it. And you don't just give him the money at the end. You give it to him while he's filming the project. So that's not how things work. But in any case, hopefully you enjoyed my description of this film. Like and subscribe to my page if you have not. Definitely check out some of my previous reviews. Check out some of my future reviews, and hopefully you'll get a chance to watch the film. If you have watched the film and get a chance to watch it, let me know down in the comments what you think of the film after you have heard my thoughts on this film. I thought it was pretty good for the budget that he had to do it on, the budget that he was forced into doing. I mean, this man sacrificed a lot to gain a little, So, in any case, thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Appreciate your time spent here on the page. Thank you so much.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?